10-1 Cubbies as we go to the bottom half of the 5th inning, and joined now by Pat McCloskey. We were just talking about him, Ian Happ's high school baseball coach at Mount Lebanon High School. Good to see you. Ian Happ got to see you earlier today.
Yes.
What did it mean to have him out at that youth camp?
Oh, it was great. We had about 80 kids that came out. The parents did a great job putting together this youth camp on very short notice. And one of the attractions was that we were going to try to get Ian to come. And, you know, it was tough because they were in Wrigley and then they were flying in here. But Ian was so cool, got to talk to him after the games on Monday and Tuesday. And then he shot me a text late last night and was like, hey, you know, finalizing our time. He came over about 10:30, talked to all the kids, did a great Q&A with the little kids. It was hilarious, and signed all of their autographs. And it was just really cool that, you know, here's Ian, you know, probably a Major League All-Star, and he still, you know, of all the things he could do on his off day, he came and saw a bunch of elementary school kids and signed some autographs and answered their questions.
We heard one of the questions about home runs hit. Any other good questions that were asked?
The funniest story he told was they asked, had you ever been ejected? And he told the story about how he did on Players' Day weekend, and hearing him tell that to a bunch of younger kids was really, really, really funny.
You've known Ian back to 2005 when his brother Chris was a part of your team. What can you tell us about your first impression of a young Ian Happ?
Well, it was great because his brother Chris Happ was, you know, the best player I had coached before Ian. And, you know, we were able to win a championship with Chris, and his little brother was always around. And then a couple years later, after Chris was off playing in college, Ian's a freshman in 2009, and here's this little tiny 14-year-old kid that has great refined skills. And, you know, you don't have to be a genius to look and be like, okay, that kid's different. If he got a little bit bigger, like, he's probably going to be pretty good. So, you know, it was a lot of fun. You know, being in the weight room with him when he was 14, back in the day when I was actually stronger than him, you know, and it embarrasses me now. But it was so cool to see him go from that little kid that loved baseball, that just grinded. I mean, you know, he's not good by accident. It's all a product of hard work that I was lucky enough to see firsthand, going all the way back to 14 years old. So I couldn't be happy for him and the phenomenal all-star year that he's having this year.
How much was he lifting as a freshman in high school?
We had to take a few weights off when it was his turn to go. We'll just leave it at that. But what was great about him was, even when there was stuff that was hard, that was difficult, that he didn't like, he stayed with it, stayed with it, stayed with it. And by the time he was a junior, he put me in my place, and I was thoroughly embarrassed.
At what point did you realize he has a real shot at playing in the major leagues?
His senior year, his records, we switched to the BB Core bats his senior year. The bats changed, and his records, nobody even sniffs them. We haven't hit as many home runs as a team since he did individually. I mean, he was that much better. Josh Wilson was a top draft pick back in 1999 from Mount Lebanon. Donnie Kelly, who's the bench coach over there, is from Mount Lebanon. But Ian's senior year, he dominated high school like nobody ever will again. The numbers don't lie. I mean, it's unbelievable. And that's where you're like, okay, that he's just different. And from all the time that we would mess around in the summer, he was the best at going and catching fly balls. He was our shortstop, obviously, and he was our closer. He was a very good pitcher, very, very good pitcher. But we would see him messing around in the outfield, and I'm like, he runs down balls like next level. So it's like a matter of, he hits, he's going to find a place to play. And so when he was up at the Cape, and his brother Chris Happ was like, yeah, they're talking, he's a first-round draft pick. He's talking to agents. I'm like, yeah. And then, yeah, in 2015, he's a first-round draft pick.
What does it mean to have him now as an ambassador for your program?
He did everything the right way. He was the greatest kid at age 14. He was the best leader we ever had in 2012. He totally changed my outlook towards coaching, in that I could turn over leadership to him. He set an example of hard work that every player since 2012 has been trying to live up to, and that's not cliche. He would come to practice, go home, lift, go home, eat, come back and lift, and then finally go home again at 9 o'clock at night. His whole senior year, every night. That was his routine.
You mentioned him doing stuff for the program in 2020. Can you give us an insight, year in and year out, what he does for you guys?
He's unbelievably generous, and he does it all on his own. As I was telling you before, when we got our season canceled in 2020, he texts me out of the blue and says, I want to talk to your seniors. Let's set up a Zoom call. And he took the worst thing ever, losing your senior season, and for 2 hours turned it into something that those kids will never, ever forget. The stories he told, the way he interacted with our kids, it was like he was best friends with them, and he had never met any of them. He's just that good of a person. Every year he gives us bats, he gives us batting gloves, he sends us everything, and it's just like, I don't ask. I show up, and there's boxes from Wrigley Field, and I'm like, you're the best, man. I love him. He's the best.
In high school, he did a lot, too. Violin growing up, baseball. Can you just describe how well-rounded he was in high school?
And here's the thing. I was his teacher in 12th grade in AP European History of all things. So he's a great student, and he was an outstanding golfer. Before that, I know that he had played football in the orchestra, as you had said. And so it's not like he was just somebody that was like, I can play baseball. Incredible parents, incredible family. And as I said, from the time he entered high school, he did everything the right way. Nothing was handed to him, nothing. All the big schools passed on him. He had to work his way all the way through the ranks.